So my name's Joanna with LadyCat Outdoors. I'm also the ambassador for the Ohio TCA. It's OHTCA is a chapter of the Trophy Catfish Association, which originated in Texas and is growing across all the states. So every state has an ambassador. It just started, so eventually I'll be, recruiting people and need help to work with ODNR, make sure that catfish have the right regulations for our state and the surrounding states. Hopefully, I'd like to travel to the other states to make sure conservation and regulations are in place for our trophy fish so that our kids and our grandkids can continue to catch these amazing creatures. So today I'm just going to talk about targeting flatheads. That is my favorite fish to catch. I travel all over the United States and have caught big blue cats, channel cats, pretty much what I started catching until I caught my first 30-pound flathead, and then it was just nothing else was comparable. So, so a little bit from my background, I started fishing with my dad and my grandpa when I was little, same as everybody, catching the bluegill and throwing them in the bucket, and he would tell me if they were too big or too small. I never really understood what we were doing until I got a little older. And then, so I still use a bucket for my bait. I like to bank fish, and I also like to fish off of a boat. I think each has its own reward, and they're both equally as fun for me. So I know a lot of guys think that if you just fish off of a boat, they don't understand what bank fishing's like and things like that, but I would most of the time rather bank fish than fish off of a boat. So basically today I want to talk about spring flathead fishing, since that's the next season coming up and your next opportunity to catch a trophy flathead. They're a little bit different for each season. So in the winter, flatheads generally hunker down in deep holes, like wintering holes is what a lot of people call them. The flatheads like to conserve energy, conserve calories. They shut their metabolism way down. They don't move a lot. They just kind of all stack up on top of each other. Once that water hits 50 degrees or above, they come out, they start traveling, and you're going to want to target specific areas in the spring. So spring is a bank fisherman's paradise. You are going to target shallow water, which is easily accessible from the bank usually. You're going to target creek mouths, shallow mud flats, still timber, wood, any kind of structure. Another thing I like to do, where we live, we have lakes, and they let the water down in the fall before winter. So you can go and walk the lakes, and you'll see where they let the water out. It'll be where you're normally fishing. It's nothing. It's just ground. So you can go actually see the structure. So next year, when the water comes back up, you know exactly what's right there. So that's really cool. We actually have found, last year I found a flathead skull doing that, they duck hunt. So we go and look for ducks and stuff, and there was a skull that had to be a 60-plus pound like flathead. It was amazing. I still have it. But so those are the things you want to look for in the spring. You still want to find ledges, structure, things like that. And for bait, a lot of people, you can use like worms, chicken liver, shrimp, all the things that you hear, grape Kool-Aid, chicken. You can use all that and catch eater-sized channel cats all day long, and I still will fish with chicken livers or worms if I'm taking my kids out and I need quantity over quality. But if I'm actually going flathead fishing, you won't catch me with any of that. Or if I'm trophy channel fishing either, you're not going to get those big trophy fish that you're looking for. What you want is the most natural, fresh bait that body of water has to offer. So if you're fishing a lake that has, giant bluegill or whatever legal bait that you can use for flathead fishing, whatever is a prominent source in that lake is what you want to target. So you want to catch those bait and use them live in a lake or cut or live in a river. Generally, I don't catch flatheads in a lake on cut bait. I don't really know the science behind it. It just doesn't happen. On a river, you can catch them with cut, live, during the day, at night, it doesn't matter. And sometimes even the day bite is better than the night bite on the river. So, but in the spring, when the flatheads wake up and they start moving around, a lot of people always say, like, you know, big baits, long weights, and that's usually my motto. I love big baits, but in the spring you don't need that, because they wake up and they're still, it's kind of like when you don't eat for a day and then you gorge and then you're like, oh my god, it hurts so bad, I ate way too much. So that's kind of like the flatheads. They'll eat the littlest piece of shad you've ever seen in your life in the river, and you'll catch 40-pound flathead on this little inch piece of shad, and they don't make no sense. But that's what they like. And a little 3-inch bluegill, anything live, little creek chubs. I've also noticed in the spring, whatever spawning, whatever bait is spawning, that's what, if I have a smorgasbord of bait in front of these fish, like if the bluegill are spawning, that they're gonna take the bluegill. I don't know what the science is, but could be nothing. Could have just made that all up. But I've noticed it, and so I like to do that. So I'm gonna go over my setups that I have that I usually use most of the time. And I use them for different things, like, so 99% of the time I will use a double hook rig. I didn't bring any sinkers, so I just use a sinker slide with wherever I'm fishing. If I'm fishing the river with a lot of current, you can get away with 4 ounces sometimes, all the way up to 12. Whatever you need to keep your bait where you put it, because you know, you throw all your lines out and they all just go together. You don't have enough weight on. So I have my sinker slide, a bead. I like these chain swivels a lot. I started using those last year, and it lets, especially in current, you reel it back up and you'll just have a whole knot all over your swivel. But these kind of just like, they have 6 balls and they just spin, and it really reduces the tangle, I think. I like a double hook. I usually try not to use cut unless I notice that the fish are eating cut over live, but I will use a double hook for my giant live bait. And so that works well, because a lot of times if you have a giant bait on, yeah, that fish is gonna eat it, but when they grab it, they're just grabbing half of it, and then they're running, and you reel down, and then it just pops right out. If you have 2 hooks, your hookups are and you'll get it back, you'll reel it in, and it'll be like scaled on the side of your bait, and you just wanna cry. So I run a double hook most of the time with big baits. The only time I do not run a double hook is if I'm in a lot of structure or it's very snaggy area, because you're more likely to get hung up and stuck. So it's better with just one. So this one is your 3-way. And I like to use a 3-way with a float. If I'm gonna run a float, so if it's like a lot of seaweed on the bottom, or if I'm in like a lot of lily pads and things like that, I just want my bait to just come up off of the ground like a little bit. So this little peg float, I like the 3-inch ones. A lot of people use demon dragons, whatever, and you can spend the money on them, but a peg float's gonna raise up your bait, and then I just use a little bit of rattle. So in the current, it's just shaking like that. So with your 3-way though, you will use a sacrificial sinker, is what I use anyway, because if you get hung up, your sinker will break before all your other stuff. So you're still gonna get your setup back. I just tie a little like nothing knot so that it will break. Don't tie like a polymer or anything. It's not gonna come undone. It's not much stronger than a polymer. But so this, I just leave a loop, and then I can go right through my coin sinker or whatever, and you can take it on and off real easy. A lot of people use clips too, but like I said, it's not really sacrificial at that point, because it's not, that clip's not gonna break. It's like 220 pounds of pressure. So that's pretty much that. And you always want your main line to connect to your sinker line. and a lot of people don't do that right. So your three-way, this is gonna float, and your sinker is gonna stay right where you put it. Now if you use this float with a sinker slide, your sinker slide is gonna be down here, and if you have a live bait on a float, your bait's gonna be at the top of the water, and you're gonna see your peg float at the top of the water with your bait, because it just has all the slack from that sinker slide. So I like to lock it down with the three-way. It can't move. Or if I'm fishing a lot of structure on the bank, again, I don't want the current to pull my sinker into the wood, and then you're just done before you even start fishing. So, and then this one, probably one of my favorites too. Well, I just brought all my favorites, so. This one is your
party rig
float. So you can either suspend, so say you find like, you're on a boat and you find like a giant wood pile that, looks like it's got fish for sure. You don't want to cast into it, because why? You're going to lose all your stuff. You're never going to pull that fish out. So you just hover above it, and you can suspend without, don't look at this, but you can suspend your rods right over it, and then like a foot off, so that the fish will just come up, take your bait straight down, it'll bury that rod and set the hook. We use circle hooks. And that's a really fun way to fish too. So, but this balloon rig, you can use this on the bank or on a boat, and with current, it can take you all kinds of places that you've never been before on a bank. So you want to use, this is not what you're supposed to use, but I forgot my bobber stop. So you put a bobber stop wherever the depth is. So say you are fishing, you are in like, and with the thermocline too in the summer, so say you want to fish 10 foot of water, but it's 20 foot deep. You want to set your bobber stop all the way to wherever, you just slide it up to however deep you need it, and then that way your balloon can't go. And then you would use a slip sinker right here that just goes right in on there, just to hold it down enough. You don't want it on the bottom or anything, but it'll hold it straight down. So your balloon stays on top of the water, and I have two glow sticks in here, but you can't see them. So at night, you just have a glowing balloon in the water, and then this sits exactly in the water where you want it, at what level. And it can just float on top of the wood. The current can take it. If you open up your bait runner, you can let it run with the current a little bit to take you even out further. A lot of people do it in the ocean too, to get their baits way out if they can. So, and then when you see your balloon just like acting crazy, that's when you got a fish, and then it'll just pop, and you think the balloon wouldn't go down, but it does. So those are really fun, and that's my other fun way of bank fishing. So pretty much, does anybody have any questions?
How do you have the shorter rod on the one setup?
This purple one?
Yeah.
The purple one is this new extortion, and they shortened the handle for a woman or kayakers. They have a negotiator rod that's blue and green for men or whatever, but they shorten the rod, which is nice for some men like it too, but when we're reeling down, or there's sometimes these rods are ridiculous. We're catfishing, they have like surf rods, and you're trying to reel. So this has been super nice. They took 3 inches off the top and 3 inches off of the handle to make it more comfortable when you're fighting a fish. So I really like it, and I hope more rod companies start to do that. But it is nice in a kayak too.
When you're fishing a lake, what is the main thing you look for flatheads?
In a lake? So,
I know you said the structure.
Yep. So you basically in the spring you want to go where the bait is too. So you'll see, and even like shad, when the shad spawn and things like that, they'll all come up to the bank or go to shallow flats. You can use Navionics. It's like $10 a month. If you guys don't have that, you should for sure get it. It's just an app to download on your phone called Navionics. It's $10 a year, and you can look up any body of water in the country, you know, you can pre-fish before even fishing. Basically, like you go find the contours of that lake and just see where there's like a hard ledge. If it goes from, you know, 2 foot to 30, right now, you're going to fish that because the fish are going to lay at the bottom and then cruise up to the top and eat into the shallows, or they just hunt in the shallows all the time. And there's literally nothing too shallow for a flathead in the spring. I've caught like 30-pound flatheads in less than a foot of water. It's crazy. And the other thing with fishing that shallow in a lake, usually I'm not too big on like blacked out fishing, you know, and like be quiet because the fish can hear you type stuff. Usually I'm not real big about that unless we are very shallow. They can hear, you know, anything, any kind of disturbance. It's like when kids throw rocks into the water, it's gonna scare all the fish away. So if you're fishing on the bank and it's 2 foot of water, you kind of want to turn your lights off. You don't want to play music. You want to just wait, big baits and long waits. That's it. But in a lake, that's pretty much it. The creek mouths, anything that feeds into it. Dams are really popular. They have like Volkswagen-sized fish. I don't know if you heard about that.
Every dam has Volkswagen
Yeah,
fish.
they do. So dams are pretty popular because they have all of the, you know, everything that's built up. It just builds natural structure for the fish on the bottom. So the bottoms are just a mess, and that's what catfish like.
Navionics has web app too that's free.
Really?
Yeah. So if you want to do it at home, you know, you could do Navionics web app and it's free.
Okay.
You can pull it up as many times as you want.
Oh, that's cool.
But it's not mobile. You can't take it.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to spend money.
Yeah, for tournament fishing, when we do tournaments across, you know, you can't go sometimes to that state a couple times before the tournament. So you just get onto that Navionics and you study that body of water. And if you see like a hard bend in the river, you're like, you know what, let's just mark that and check it out when we get there. And it's really helpful, especially for bait. If you need to find spots to get bait, you should generally know where the bait would be. And it's really helpful to pinpoint stuff without driving around the whole place, you know? Any other questions? My favorite bait is suckers like this big. Like the white nose, red horse, they have like black ones too. There's like a million kind of suckers. And then those like quillback carp. I think that's what they're called, right? Quillback. Yeah, they're like this big. Perfect. And I got a perfect honey hole. So.
You like braid or mono?
I use braid for my main line, and I just found this. I haven't used it yet, so don't quote me on it, but this Power Pro, I usually use Power Pro, but this is called Moonshine, and it's UV glow white. So I haven't used it yet, but it looks pretty good. Feels good, because I like that slick too, and I usually check the braid, like if you can bend it in half and it stays bent in half, I don't like that, because I backlash really bad with that kind of braid. So I bend it, and if it doesn't have that permanent bend, then I like to get that kind. And then I use a mono leader, and I use like 40-pound Big Cat Berkeley usually, and it's just, that's just like a preference mostly. Right. And a lot of people fish different bodies of water, and that would dictate what you need. You know, if you're fishing like structure and it's metal and everything's like a mess under there, you probably want to use more mono, or at least have a really long mono leader so that it can take all the abuse from the nicks and things like that from the structure. Braid is not so resilient, it will cut. But typically if you have a good enough mono leader, you won't touch it because nothing's like floating sharp usually, unless you're in the river. So, any other questions? Yes, Chris. For flathead fishing, spring. Absolutely.
Best time of the year.
Best time of the year for flathead fishing for me is spring, I think, and that's for everybody because the bank fishermen, like I said, that's the bank fisherman's time to shine. They can, and most of the time if you're on a boat, you're coming to the bank. You're casting where the bank fishermen can cast. And then even in the summer or the fall, there's kayaks, you got, you know, john boats or whatever. You just run your bait out to where you need it and drop it and then come back to the bank where it's comfortable. But I think spring is just all around the best flathead fishing for everyone. Equal opportunity season. Anybody else? 54. Anything above 50, I'll probably start fishing it. But there's, in the river, so I probably shouldn't tell you guys this, but sometimes if you go to your rivers, there's power plants with warm water discharges, and the water temp will be significantly higher than the rest of the water around it. So when those fish wake up, then the bait's all in there because it's multiplying and eating, and so it's a plethora of bait and flathead, all kinds of catfish sanctuary, because that's going to be the warmest water first. But also, if you don't have a power plant to warm the water up for you, creek mouths will warm up faster because it's more shallow. So the sun's going to beat down and it's going to warm it up. So we do really well in front of creek mouths, mud flats, even like if you fish barges and stuff on the river. A lot of people don't fish them like this, but you can tuck if it's safe and there's no signs. You can tuck in behind the barge. So where the bank is right there, and then there's the barge. Well, the barge has to draft in however deep, you know, so it could be no foot, and then under that barge could be 20 foot, but you're gonna be real shallow in between there. But you're fishing a little bit of deep, you're fishing a little bit of shallow, and that ledge. So that's always a good spot. And it's like real hidden, so sometimes, you know, the flathead like to be hidden, and so that's a cover for them. Don't tell anybody that.
Telling everybody our secrets.
Don't tell anybody that.
Now I can't post this video.
Yeah. So, anybody else? Well, I thank you guys for coming and listening to my seminar. This is only like my second one I've ever done, and it went significantly better than the first. So, hopefully it'll go better tomorrow. And if you want to stop by the LadyCat booth, if you have any other questions or want to hang out or talk, you can come by and we'll talk. It's booth 407. If you go to Whisker Seekers, it'd be like right around that corner.